great. Look, we're knocking it out. I'm gonna cut that part out. Hey guys, welcome back for another video. I am ADRIaRenee and today is Therapy Tuesday. If you are new here, hey. If you are not new here, what's up? So as I mentioned, today is Therapy Tuesday. You're gonna see me looking over here a couple times because I have a couple notes jotted down, because as I mentioned in the last video, it may not be people, it may just be me. I have a tendency to ramble, right? I'll ramble or I'll go off on a tangent. When I was doing my internship, it was called a squirrel moment, because you know, like squirrels, like 1 minute they're doing this and the next minute they're doing something else, and so that's pretty much what that is. So I have notes over here so that I stay on topic and on track. I have notes so that I'm pointing out everything I want to point out and I'm not going on a tangent about additional things, because obviously it is Therapy Thursday and we are going to talk about anxiety today, but anxiety is a large topic to discuss. There are different factors that contribute to anxiety. There's other mental health disorders that contribute to anxiety. So obviously I can only talk so long, and I don't want to make this video too long, but I feel like I want to point out just the specific points that I feel are important to touch on today. But if you guys want me to go further in depth, then we can do that. But this right here was just a ramble. So let's talk about anxiety. But first, actually, I know I had been kind of hinting that some things were different, shifting, changing in a couple of my previous videos. And that is pretty much, I quit my job. Wednesday, July 14th, which was about 2 weeks ago, I quit my job. I'm pretty sure I've been talking about how I wanted to quit my job and all of these things, but I hadn't, so I finally did it. I kicked the bucket and I quit. I had gone on a leave, yes, previously from like May 16th to July 5th it was supposed to be, or technically it was supposed to be June 27th, and then it got pushed to July 5th, and then it got pushed again to July 11th because my job wasn't doing what they were supposed to be doing on their end. So then I went back to work for like 2 days, and I was like, nope, I still feel the exact same way I felt before I went on this leave regarding this job. I can't do it anymore. So I quit. So I'm currently an unemployed individual, but it's okay because I ain't stressing about it. It's not anything to stress about. I think I'm gonna get out of the mental health field, specifically for corporate 9 to 5, and probably, you know, continue to do the therapy Tuesdays or Thursdays, and then find another job in a different field for a while, because it's been a lot going on, as we all know, in my life and just in the world. So I needed a break. I want to still help people, but I need to get out of that capacity for a while. So that was that on that. Let's talk about anxiety. But before we jump fully in, again, I'm sorry, I do want to touch just briefly on mental health professionals, because we're different, right? So there are mental health techs who you typically see in the hospitals, leading the client or the patient from one area to another. They're making sure they're safe, they're watching them all the time, keeping track of them, those type of things, checking on them in their rooms, you know. Those are the techs. They typically don't have any medical background, but they have psychology background, typically, but not always. And then there are people like me who are, I'm technically a master's level clinician. I do, however, have the background and the education, all of that needed to be a licensed professional counselor. I just haven't taken my exam because I had a baby and the pandemic happened. Technically, I don't have a license, but I'm qualified. I just need to get that piece of paper. psychiatrists. Psychiatrists are medical professionals, right? So those are your PhDs, your Psych Ds. They basically have a doctorate. Sums it up. They are a medical doctor. So those are the ones who also can prescribe medication. All the previous mental health professionals that I've spoken about cannot prescribe. So psychiatrists can prescribe and diagnose. LPCs, licensed professional counselors, LCPCs, licensed clinical professional counselors, etc. They can diagnose, but they still cannot prescribe. And then the techs and other mental health professionals that don't have their licensing or a doctorate cannot diagnose technically. For example, like during internships, you know, so they can provide information on what they think the diagnosis is, but ultimately the licensed professional or the psychiatrist is going to be the one that fully diagnoses. And typically we actually leave it up to the psychiatrist because they're the ones who typically have to prescribe medication. Now, also, this was not in my notes, but I'm going to point this out with regards to medication. I don't necessarily believe in medication, but I do also know that there are other spectrums of mental health disorders that definitely require medication to bring an individual back down to their baseline. And then sometimes with anxiety disorders and other mood disorders, you have to provide them with medication to bring them back down to a baseline. So like Xanax, etc. Again, we're not getting all into the nitty-gritty of that, but I'm just saying. So there's different things, different people, there's, you know, so yeah, I'd advise also making sure that you know what kind of mental health professional you're speaking with, because in my opinion, I feel like people who claim to be counselors or therapists or like life coaches, people like that don't necessarily have the background, like the evidence-based information. Of course, you know, they can provide you with suggestions, but I feel like, you know, ultimately, if you feel like whatever is going on with you, be it anxiety or whatever the case may be, is intense, I'd encourage you to seek a licensed professional, a psychiatrist, if it's that serious. Additionally, I do also want to point out another fact, that, you know, everyone is different, right? We all communicate differently. We all perceive things differently. We all take in information differently. We accept information differently. And so because of that, it's important to also acknowledge if you're seeking a therapist, if you're looking for one, if you're considering it, or if you've gone previously and then never went back, it's important to realize that you have to, one, find who is a good fit for you, right? So in doing that, it's like, do your values match up? And you can, so the difficult thing about when I say finding a fit, if their values match up, is I'm kind of meaning general values, because again, we all have different perspectives. Like clearly there are a ton of Christians out there, right? We all don't believe the same things. So it's that type of situation. But I feel like with a licensed professional, they are bound by a code of ethics and other things that require them to handle situations in a certain way. So it's one of those things where if you're like skeptical about going to a man because you're a woman and you feel like all men are like this, or that they're gonna take his side, or vice versa, you have to, one, find the right fit, but also acknowledge that more than likely this counselor is not going to tell you something that isn't correct. Is that the word I want to use? Because again, like we as counselors, we as therapists, LPCs, psychiatrists, well, not psychiatrists so much. Psychiatrists are very much more medical than mental health. They understand the mental health, but they're not the talk therapists. They're not the ones that you're gonna sit and talk to about your feelings and emotions and what's going on, because that's not really their job. It's our job. So with that being the case, so we're not telling you what to do. That's what I wanted to get at. Like, you know, oftentimes on like TV, you see the therapist or whoever either fully giving them way too much information or not giving them enough. And the reality of it is that we're not going to tell you how to live your life. If you've ever sought out a counselor before, you know that you might have asked them a question like, what should I do? And they didn't directly tell you what you should do. They very much were like, well, what do you think you should do? You know, what are the pros and cons, or that type of thing. Like, we're directing you to figure out what's best for you. We're never going to give you an answer. And if the counselor does give you an answer, like if you ask them, what should I do? And they tell you, my opinion, and I'm pretty sure the opinion of the other colleagues that I had in school, majority of us are gonna be like, red flag, you should probably change counselors, because that's not our job. Plain and simple, that's not our job. Our job is not to tell you what to do. It's not to tell you how to live your life. It's not to tell you you should leave that man, or you should do, no, that's not my job. My job is to figure out how you can do what is best for you by me asking you open-ended questions, so that you then have to answer them for yourself. And then based on what you say, I'm going to respond. But again, it's never me telling you what to do. So that's also another thing. If you're looking for a therapist and that's what you want, you're not going to get it. It's just a matter of just finding one that works for you. And you may have to go through a couple to find one. And then you also may have to change your expectations for a therapist. And what I mean by that is that we have, again, like that, a male therapist might be more, you know, like a man, and so they're gonna blah blah blah. And in thinking that way, you could be stifling yourself from actually finding a therapist that you really enjoy, because you may have never wanted a male counselor, but you open yourself up to the option of that, and you might find out, oh wow, you know, like this is what I've been missing, right? And it's the counselor, it's not his gender, okay? And again, same thing goes with like religion. Like, I mean, you know, you typically may want someone who's religious, or who believes in God, or who has some type of faith base. But at the same time, if you really think about it, everybody believes in something, right? Even the atheists believe that there is no God, right? So everybody believes in something. So it's just a matter of just really being open with yourself, and open to the benefits that therapy can have for you. I wanted to point that out, because this is the first like official Therapy Tuesday. So I wanted to kind of give a couple disclaimers. Nonetheless, we're talking about anxiety, where I'm not talking about someone who has an anxiety disorder, okay? I'll get into the difference, but anxiety in and of itself is the excessive worry or fear, or I don't know, anticipation of things that you have no control over. I'm gonna give you guys the definition, but that's as a layman's term as I can get it, okay? So anxiety by definition is intense, excessive, and persistent worry and fear about everyday situations. It becomes a disorder when it starts to interfere with your daily life, right? So backtracking. So anxiety can present itself with like racing heartbeat, sweating. You're probably sitting there like, oh my God, I have anxiety. You probably do. A little bit of anxiety is good for everyone, because anxiety can be correlated with stress, right? And if you think about it, like little kids, right? Like they're not stressed, they're not worried about anything, because they're little. They don't know anything, but that causes issues, right? Like they might run out in the middle of traffic, because hopefully you've taught them better than that, but because they're not thinking about like, oh, I could get hit by a car. Like they're just like, whatever. And they run out of traffic, and then, oh my God, something happens. And then that triggers a stress response, right? That triggers a little anxiety, like, holy crap, you know, when I ran out in the street, that type of thing. So anxiety, regular, normal anxiety is good, because it heightens your awareness. So you're not necessarily going to do that. Like, you're not going to be terrified to cross the street, but you're going to pay attention. You're not just going to walk out in traffic, right? So again, that's normal, completely fine. You get anxiety, like if you have to take a test, again, normal, because if you're not worried about it at all, chances are you might not do too well. I don't know. Like, a little bit of anxiety is really good, because it pushes you along a little bit. It makes you also apprehensive sometimes. But like I said, the excessive, when it starts to interfere with your daily life, things like that, when you can't do normal things that you were doing because of anxiety. And also, anxiety and depression are comorbid, and what that means is they typically happen at the same time. So like people who are anxious, worrying about things that they can't control, may then become depressed because they're worried about things they can't control, which is stressing them out, and then they end up, you know, going into a corner and curling up in a ball. And again, that's MDD, so that's major depressive disorder. That's not just regular seasonal depression, which can feel like that, but it's the fact of like seasonal depression, like, you know, you have these moments, you allow yourself to live in those moments, and then over time you pull yourself out of them. MDD is you're stuck in it, and you need more intense counseling, someone to talk to let those feelings out, to be able to actually get back to the regularly scheduled program, so to speak. But they don't always happen together, but it's very common that for someone who has anxiety, and again, an anxiety disorder, not just anxiety, to also have a depressive disorder as well. So for example, like I mentioned anxiety disorder, so that's like PTSD, OCD, and panic disorder, which is typically like panic attacks. All of those, again, it's more about intensity of it, right? Because some of us, I'm a little bit OCD, but I've also self-diagnosed myself with a lot of things, so, but I'm also high functioning, right? So that's, I don't want to say that's the difference, but I also am in this field, so like, it's not the best thing, but you know, like, I shouldn't be self-diagnosing, but at the same time I should, right? Because it's obviously not to the intensity where I can't function, where I can't do my daily activities, where it's interfering with my life and things like that. PTSD obviously is caused by a traumatic experience. So like I said, you potentially have PTSD if you walk out into the street and don't look both ways, right? So I mean, there's a wide range of anxiety, and there's a wide range of how much anxiety you may have, and there's a wide range of when it may and may not occur, because you may have never had anxiety before in your life, and then you end up with anxiety one day and you're trying to figure out why. And that's also another important part about therapy, is the fact that you have to, like, when things change in your life, you have to be mindful of those things, because if you're not mindful, like, you'll end up with anxiety and not know where it came from, right? Whereas if you look back, or have someone around you who, you know, may have a little background in psychology, or you may have a little background in psychiatry, you can look psychology, you can look back and figure out where that anxiety came from. But it's a process, right? Like everything in life. I'm sorry, my eyes, like, I know what it's doing. But everything in life, right, it's a process. So it's a process where you have to go through and figure out what caused this anxiety, where did it come from, who did it. And it might even be the smallest thing, right? Or it might be something you're not even really thinking about it, but again, subconsciously you're thinking about it, and so it's like terrifying you, right? Public speaking is another one of those things that can definitely give you anxiety. I know for me, I mean, I've had anxiety my entire life, but for me, like, public speaking is like very anxiety provoking. Mind you, I know I speak well, I'm very educated, right? So it's one of those things a lot of times. So for me, being transparent, for me, when I used to feel like that, I couldn't figure out how to pull myself out of it. I mean, I would, or I just wouldn't public speak, right? But now it's like, for example, like public speaking with regards to mental health, right? Like, I have a whole degree. No one helped me with my degree. I got my degree myself, right? That was not showing how educated and how well spoken I am, but nonetheless, I got a degree. And so what that means is that obviously I have the knowledge and understanding to be able to talk about the topic that I have to talk about. So why am I anxious? Like, I can be a little bit anxious because, like, oh, okay, you know, because there's a ton of people who are about to listen to me, but at the same time, like, having the confidence in myself to know that I know what I'm talking about. And these people probably don't know what I'm talking about. So low key, if I mess up a little bit, they're not even gonna acknowledge it because they don't know. Like, they're just listening to me. So either I mess up and it needs to be corrected and then I correct myself, or I mess up but it's not something that's a big deal and then I just keep going, right? Like, it's one of those things where you have to acknowledge that you know what you're doing, or you are who you are. So whatever you're doing or whatever you're not doing is okay. So that's just how I got over having issues with public speaking, acknowledging the fact that I know what I'm doing. With anxiety, like I said, most people have anxiety. If they don't have anxiety, that's cool. I haven't met too many people that don't have anxiety, so but it's one of those things where I don't know, like anxiety in and of itself, I don't know if that's curable. I mean, it comes and goes with, you know, it's situational, right? So different situations may cause you to have anxiety, other ones may not, that type of thing. As far as anxiety disorder, those things, it's not curable, it's treatable, and you can figure out ways to cope with the anxiety, right? You can figure out ways, you can, you know, make yourself a safety plan, which again, not going too deep, but you can make a safety plan where it's like, what triggers your anxiety, what makes you anxious, some things that like make you calm, right? Like, what do you enjoy doing? Who can you talk to if you need to talk to somebody about your anxiety? What else can you do, and what can you look forward to after you figure out your triggers? Because like journaling, drawing, things like that can help your anxiety because it focuses your brain on something else. Additionally, acknowledging that you can only control yourself. You can't control anybody or anything else in your life. Like, no matter how much you may want to, you can't. So constantly worrying about something that has not happened or that could possibly happen is just stressing you out for no reason. Like, there's no reason to be stressed about something that you don't even know is going to happen or not, right? Like, you're anticipating something that has not happened, but you're stressed out about it, which is making you anxious, which is then affecting your current life right today, right? Like, if I'm stressed about something next week, sure, I can think about it, but I can't do anything about it. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know the outcome of next week. I don't even know what's going to happen in the next hour, okay? I barely know what's going to happen in the next minute. You know what I mean? So it's that type of thing where it's like it's that constant worry about stuff that you can't control. And I mean, that worry can be rational or irrational, absolutely, but it still doesn't change the fact that you can't control it. So what can you do today? Because if you stress out today about something next week, you might end up making things way more stressful for you in the next coming up days because you're not paying attention to that. You're so worried about what's happening next week, and now you have all this other stuff that's going wrong too, right? So yeah, you know, I feel like all that has been summed up to say, be kind to yourself. It's okay. Like, it's okay. Anxiety is normal. It's okay. It's not, you know, something to hide or to feel bad about. Therapy is also very important, even if your anxiety is not that bad, so you think, right? Or just not that bad compared to someone else, because everyone has a different perspective. Everybody's lives are different. We all deserve to live our happiest, healthiest life. And if that includes getting some counseling, do that, because why not? Like, what's the worst that can happen? You know what I mean? It's really that. Like, what's the worst that can happen? You go to counseling and you hate it? Sure, but do you hate the counseling, or do you hate the things that you have to talk about in counseling that you have not been talking about, which is why you have these additional concerns and issues in your life, right? So yeah, I think, you know, that was a good chat, guys. I encourage us all to seek counseling, especially, you know, with everything that's been going on in the world. It's crazy, and you know, when we hold those things inside, they manifest as something else, whether it be violence towards others or violence towards ourselves. And again, we should all be able to live our happiest, healthiest lives, and if that requires some counseling, you know, I think our world would be a whole lot better if a lot more of us sought out counseling, as a world, and also as a Black people, okay? Because, you know, the stigma of mental health and counseling, and I ain't telling that counseling, blah blah blah, okay? Like, that was cool back then. I feel like it was probably okay back then because, you know, social media and different things that put a spotlight on what's going on in the world, or even in your family, wasn't that big. But these days, you know, people speaking out, kids speaking out, Everybody's speaking out, so it needs to be addressed, right? It needs to be addressed, and it needs to be fixed or made in a way that is appropriate and functional for everyone involved. I think that we need to do better, myself included, right? We need to love on each other and not judge each other because someone does something differently than us, and we wouldn't do that, and why would they do that? And the fact is that this has nothing to do with you, right? In the end, you're only in control of yourself. Nobody else. Not your kids, not your parents, not your aunt, uncle, cousin, nephew. Nobody. You are only in control of yourself. You can what is it? What's that saying? You can lead a horse to water, but you cannot make it drink, okay? Be selfish sometimes. It's okay. You know, as long as it's not causing harm or danger to anybody. I feel like I say that all the time, but I mean it. If what you're doing in your life makes you happy and it's not causing harm or danger to anybody else around you, and I don't mean that you're ignoring the harm and danger it's causing. I mean, honestly, it's not bothering nobody and it's not hurting anyone or you. Live your best life. Be happy. Life is short. Life is mad short. So live your life, okay? That was another tangent, but I had to let that one come out too. I hope this video encourages you guys to want to go, you know, maybe seek some counseling or talk to a therapist or see a psychiatrist if you feel like the severity of your issues are over the top and you can't manage it anymore, and you just don't know what you can do, and you can go talk to somebody. You can reach out to someone, because you know our family and friends may not want to hear it, and that's okay because they have their own things going on, right? But at the same time, sometimes they do want to hear it because they have their own things going on, and it pulls their mind away from that. And now that's another thing before we go. That's another thing. You also be mindful of the people that you know have around you, right? So like there are people who are around you that actually love you and care about you, and then there are people around you who just want to see you fail. So those people you don't really want to talk to because they're in the back of their minds happy that your life is terrible, right? You want to talk to those people that you know love and care about you and actually want the best for you, because they're going to listen, they're going to understand or try to empathize with you. They may also provide their opinion that you didn't ask for. So you may want to, you know, preface the conversation by saying, I don't need you to say anything. I just want to talk about it. You know, do what you gotta do. But anywho, guys, I appreciate you for watching. This video was a little longer than the rest of them, but it's Therapy Tuesday, so it's not just a random video. But yeah, until we meet again, I'll see you guys in my next video.